welcome to Faith and Fellowship. We are so glad you are back with us. We are joining with us again for this particular podcast, Lee and Angela, and they are part of artcity.church, been coming for, just to catch you guys up, I guess it's been over a year now. Yeah, over a year, for sure. And but hopefully you've caught the episodes before and them just talking about everything that's been going on. But I'm in the studio. We're actually missing a person. Lyric's not with us, but I've got Joel also with us here. How you doing, Joel?
I am good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Just so you guys as listeners know, I'm probably going to be leaving about halfway through this episode. Had something come up that I got to get to, but I'll be here for the first part of the discussion. So,
yep, that just means no dedication, no commitment whatsoever.
That just means no nonsense. You'll be able to stay focused because I won't be here.
And we'll have Lyric and, we might have a real discussion.
It might be serious.
This might be the best thing. Yeah, exactly. We have you guys, before we get into the discussion, have you heard about it's hurricane season? And we just had hurricane. I think they pronounce it Helene. I don't think it's Helene. Maybe it is Helene. But came up through the Gulf of Mexico, hit Florida, and then hit western North Carolina. And a lot of you guys know, but I'm from North Carolina. I grew up in central North Carolina, and so my mother-in-law, Kathy's mom, my wife's mother, is from western North Carolina. She was born and raised there, so she's got a lot of connections there. And it was ravaged, and a lot of her brother. She's got one brother who lives there, and it was communication was knocked out, and he's a nurse, and so he was working some weird shifts, and all that means is he didn't get in touch for a couple of days. So it was a weird couple of days. Like, wow, I was like, is he okay? We're not hearing anything. When I hear anything from family, finally somebody saw him, and he is doing okay, and he didn't lose he actually lives in a trailer. So it stood the test of time, or stood the hurricane. But anyway, it's funny because it's hurricane season, and we had this one come, and now there's other ones coming, and so there's one brewing now in the Atlantic, and right now the trajectory is it's supposed to go out into the Atlantic and not come onto land. But the name of the hurricane is Kirk. So Hurricane Kirk. And I remember, they usually drop the names in July, like for the hurricane season. I remember seeing it on there, and I'm like, oh, there you go. So it's been this running joke with my family. And my brothers, of course, North Carolina, my parents, and then my brother's kids are in North Carolina and Virginia. And I had my nephew actually...
We'll have to show them the picture.
Yeah, he sent me a text message, a big group text message, and he took the hurricane, and in the middle of it, he put my picture in the middle of it, and he's like, oh, everybody run, it's Hurricane Kirk. And hopefully... And so I think I texted him back, and I'm like, hopefully it's mild and it just runs out, because it'd be terrible for Hurricane Kirk to strike North Carolina. I don't know if I'd ever hear the end of that. So anyway.
I think we should start calling you Hurricane Kirk from the pulpit on Sunday mornings.
I don't think so.
We could do like a little introduction.
No,
Okay.
I don't like that at all. So, oh man. Well, we appreciate you guys coming back. I know you have a lot going on, not only just in life period, but a specific part of your life where you're expecting your second child, and you just came back from another appointment, and everything's still looking good.
Yep, scheduled for next week. So.
Oh, it's next week.
Next week.
Wow.
Next Wednesday.
Unbelievable. That's fascinating. Awesome. Well, we will be praying, and have been, and hopefully, anything we can do to support you guys through that, we'd love to do that. And man, that's exciting.
Yeah.
You excited?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
You nervous?
Very.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet. Well, we wanted to, like Joel was saying, we wanted to pick up and kind of, your story's fascinating. I know there's so many other levels we could go, and so many different stories that we probably aren't telling. But we wanted to try to have a concluding type of episode where you guys would pick up where you left, and kind of maybe even a leading question, something that's always been on my mind when it comes to people who are raised in some form of spiritual faith, some faith, but there's elements of that, or the whole thing, that it's destructive. It's in a way abusive or destructive. How do you go from there? And maybe this is something you guys could start with. Like, was there a period of time where you were like, I'm not even sure, there even is a God?
Oh yeah.
And could you guys pick up with that and maybe talk about some of that?
Yeah. I mean, for probably 10 years, I just living life. I wasn't convinced. I met Angela in 2017, and we were both, and it wasn't that I ever questioned that there was a God, because I knew there was. I just questioned, like, what am I to him? How am I? Why is it worth his time to help me in any way? But Angela was a little bit more. She's always been more spiritual than me, and but she helped me a lot of the way, and we weren't really looking to get closer to God necessarily. But after, I think for me, I'm not sure exactly how it is for her, but for me, it was when we got pregnant with our first baby, Alec, that passed away, then all of a sudden it comes to your mind. It's like we've got to think about structure and life and how we want to raise this child, and so we just started talking. It's like, okay, we've really got to. We know there's a God, and we want to become closer to him. We want him to be involved in our life and in our child's life. And so that's where it started really for us. And then, but after his death, then everything, of course, it just kind of went sideways, and then we started questioning again, and I was angry at God for a while. I mean, just questioning what is my use to him, and what does he get out of loving me, and so I just seeing all these bad things that come on in life, and it was 2020, so it was just a stressful time for everybody. And then after his death, and sort of through our recovery, it was quite a few months that we just figured out that, and it takes a lot after something like that to step away from it in a way, but not. Let me rephrase. It takes a lot to not feel like you're being drowned by it. Mm-hmm. And so you have to kind of pick your head up and then look at the clear sky and realize that there is something out there, and you have to. So after a while, it took quite a while to pull ourselves together. We, of course, just wanted God to help us through our healing process, because we knew it wasn't going to happen without him. And that's really where we started searching and wanting to get close to him, and started really praying for some guidance from him to find community and somebody that could just kind of guide us back towards him and help us be on the path that we wanted to be.
What did that searching look like practically for you guys? Did you go out and visit other churches or start talking to other people, trying to get a feel for what is the truth, or what did that look like?
Not initially. We did about a year later. Then we started going to a few and just trying to find one. We even found one that we kind of liked, but it was just it just wasn't quite there for us. And then when we met Kirk at Art City Days in last year, 23, then that's where I first just felt a good connection. And then when we first attended church here, then I've already known Bob for quite a while, and he was the one standing at the door, and it was somebody else that I really liked and I could relate with, and he brought me in.
You knew Bob before.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
I thought you met him.
So he brought us in and invited us to his house and showed us what the Bible was about, and that was immensely helpful. I mean, I would honestly still be a little bit lost if it hadn't been for him just taking us one-on-one. Okay, what's your understanding with this? Because everything is from a LDS it's an LDS-based understanding where it's the parts. It's not the Bible as a whole. It's the parts of the Bible we want to listen to and we want to pay attention to.
Right.
And so Bob helped us break that down. It's like, what's your understanding with this? And we would tell him, and he's like, okay, I'm just going to read it to you and tell you literally what the Bible says, rather than taking one little verse out of context. We'll read the 10 verses before and the 10 after so that you understand the whole entire thing. We'll just, and I'll just tell you what God said instead of just trying to guess what he's trying to say on no context.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you? Did anything else you wanted to add to that, or anything in your journey?
Yeah, I feel like the biggest thing that I've had to work through after coming out of the FLDS is the programming, and little things that will trigger you. Even the way you say prayer, like, for reference, Dear Heavenly Father, like that triggered me. And then when we came here and it was said in a different, not that it really matters, but just certain, even, I guess I'll say this, but like the first time you talked about getting baptized, like we're offering baptism, like all of a sudden I just had like so much anxiety because I've been baptized in the FLDS probably 10 times.
Oh, wow.
Like, so that was just like, and I didn't even realize it until you had said that, like in church. And I was like, wow, that's like a super triggering thing for me. Like, I really have to work through this of what baptism is and what it actually represents. And it's not just this, what's the word? Where, I don't know, just a triggering experience where you had an over and over and over. And
it's such a high stress experience in FLDS. It's like you get baptized now or by this day. And if you don't, then you're no longer a member of the church. You can't have a meeting. You're going to be cut off from your family and everything.
Can you remind me just really fast why the 10?
So we initially got baptized when we were 8, like the LDS does that. But then when the UO, the United Order, started, which Warren kind of pulled in 2010, 11?
I don't know.
And
it was maybe starting.
They just started to get into the United Order, you had the whole church had to get rebaptized, which happened. And then after that, we became non-members and members over just really little
trivial
things. Or you needed to reconfess. And so we were like reconfessing. And that was another thing I really struggled with, is like, how am I ever going to like be forgiven and overcome these things if I'm just reconfessing the same things, the same little crushed thoughts I had about a boy, or, and that was literally what we were reconfessing. Wow. And it was just, a lot to, and you had to wear, you know, the white dresses and go in a room with just men, and it was hard. And whether you were, I don't know if I should say this on tape, but having your period, then all of a sudden, like, you just made a mess, and it was humiliating. And there was,
because you had to do it at
because you had to do it at that time in that order.
Oh my goodness.
And there was just yeah. And at that point, most of my family was gone, so like nobody you were familiar with was around or involved. Like, it was you with the council. So yeah,
I can see how that's triggered.
Yeah,
that's a triggered word.
Yeah,
You know, I stand up in the pulpit. He wants to be baptized. He's like, no, thank you.
It was just like, whoa! Like, what was weird to me is I didn't even realize that was triggering. Like, and I was like, oh, okay, I got to work through that. And so I think the programming, and there's just like little things, like I was saying, how you say prayer, or little things that I'm like, okay, we were trained, raised, programmed in such a way that it now is hard, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just I need to look at it from a different view. Right.
Your view on baptism then versus now, what is that? Well, we already know your view then. What is your view on baptism now? And how have you come to terms with?
I think it's a good thing. And actually, before you had even mentioned that we were doing baptisms, then Lehigh one time asked me, like, would you ever get baptized? I might have even been before we started coming to Art City Church. And I said, I would be baptized to Christ, but I would never get baptized to a religion or a organization ever again. And seeing baptism done through Art City Church, it brought a lot of peace and relief. And I was like, that's how it's supposed to be done. It's not to a organization, a man, like to Christ, but not anyone, you know.
Not an earthly
leader, yes.
Yeah. And it's funny, not funny. It's interesting because you guys remember or know Tyler and Liz, who come here and were baptized. And I know that she, we're not going into detail, but I know she wouldn't mind me just saying these parts, is that Kathy had met with her. Tyler had a little bit more of a background in like a church, Christian church, but she didn't. And she would go with him, never really understood it. And so Kathy met with her just one-on-one for, I'd say for like, they're still meeting, but it was like 9 months. And she would literally, their discussions when they would start is Kathy would say, what would you like to talk about? And Liz would say, well, can we talk about this word? It triggers me. What does this word mean in the Bible? Because when I hear it, I get triggered. And it was words like prayer. It was words like baptism. It was words just that we would take for granted, you know, because we had been in them, what worship or, you know, things just like that. And they would just go through the Bible and do the very same thing that, you know, you were saying Bob was doing with you guys. And it just takes time.
Right.
And it took just trying to, I don't want to use the word, probably deprogram or try to.
It literally is a programming, and you have to like acknowledge that and realize, okay, this is why it triggered me.
Okay. Wow. That's fascinating. So you guys, to kind of follow up with your question, you said that to start off with it though, because you had the tragic death of your child, and you said there was some time there before that you were saying, okay, it's a structure. We need to have some type of structure in our family. We know there's a God. There's some, I mean, even if you want to say it this way, there's some deity or something. We didn't come from chance. Some energy or some God created us, and we want to try to find out who that is. Then you have the tragic death, and you're having to go through the mourning and the healing. And you're saying that started a journey. That journey started because we kind of skipped forward pretty fast. It was like, went to a certain church, then came here, met us at Art City Days, came here, met Bob. But to start there, what did it start off with you two kind of coming together and individually just talking about it and saying, how do we want to go about this, or how are we looking? Was there books involved? Was the Bible involved at all? How did that kind of play out at the first initial seeking?
It was only conversations between ourselves. The Bible wasn't even involved because we didn't even want to pick it up because, like she said, there's so much of it that is just triggering and just I grew up thinking the Bible was all and only death and destruction, and that's all. I remember as a kid waking up thinking today was the day that I was going to be killed by God because I wasn't good enough, or I know that sounds really graphic, but that literally was my thoughts. And so we didn't even get the Bible involved because it felt like too much, because we didn't understand it or understand how to study it. We could have just picked it up, and we probably should have, but we didn't know where to read from or anything. And so we didn't, it was just conversations between ourselves and just trying to figure out where her mind was spiritually, and trying to figure out myself where I was at and what we wanted to introduce to our children and things like that.
Well, and also it's not and which Bob actually helped clear that up for us. It's not all about the works, how hard you pray, how diligently you put forth these efforts, and
how many baptisms you have.
And that is not what saves you. That is not that brings you closer to God. It is the peace. It is the comfort, that relying on Him for that peace and comfort.
Yeah, to me,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut anyone off. I've got to head out. 22 minutes.
Okay.
But I look forward to hearing the rest of this when I edit it. And thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah. So, to me, so the greatest thing that ever happened, or I should say the one thing that I would say brought me to Christ, because I was raised in a denomination where I would have said they believed the Bible and preached the Bible, had a handle on what the gospel was, but that didn't mean I had a handle on what the gospel was. It had meant nothing because it didn't mean anything to me. But the thing that consciously moved me to pursue and to believe, however you want to put it into those words, right? To have my heart go after God, was this concept of Jesus, God, giving Christ, understanding that Christ is God, but Him coming in spite of my sin. That was the game changer. It wasn't clean up, get everything in order, and then we'll give some help along the way. It was you're broken and you need serious saving, but I'm not going to leave you alone. I'm actually going to come to you because you would never come to me. And I was like, that love is something that is unfathomable. It's something that it's beyond what we would understand love to be, because it's super sacrificial. It's simply, I'm not loving you to get something back. You have zero to offer me. You could put it that way, or you could put it this way. You have something that you don't even know and you can't even tap into because you're so broken. I'm coming to save you. because I see the worth in you that you don't even see in yourself. I mean, you could put it any way you want to, but the origin of salvation is coming from God to us, and us being saved is coming from someone outside of us that is faithful, not us who aren't. And to me, that love, like you said, that to me is the difference in any really religion, but it seems like in the LDS, FLDS, which I know there are similarities, but a lot of differences. It seems to be more work-based. God will give you or grant you additional resources and help and everything that you need, but you got to put it all together and get it right. And the greatest verse from that I still grasped is Romans 5:8, where it says that God shows his love toward us, and that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And just breaking that down and thinking through it. So that's incredible that you guys have come out and have thought through that. And so, I mean, where would you say, if I had to ask the question, and you can always be like, well, I don't know, or I don't want to say, but where would you say you are right now? I mean, by the way, we could always mention hesitantly that the pastor that met you guys at Art City Days forgot that he did so when he came back. Hey, you guys first time visit? No, we met you at the booth. And
been here for months. Where have you been?
Exactly. Been in another state. But where would you say, after being here and for over a year now, hearing the Bible taught, talking with people one-on-one about the Bible, where would you say you are on your journey?
I would definitely say I have a completely different view of, pretty much completely different view of Christ, of just how to have connection with him than I did. It is entirely different. The way I reach to him, the way I connect is completely different than what I was trained.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What about you?
It's the same for me. I think and this isn't really your question, but the biggest thing for me was realizing and through listening and having Bob help us, him helping us study and read the Bible in with context, it is an easy path to Christ. It really is. He lays it out for us. He says,
everyone is capable of it.
Yeah, everyone is capable. And where before you said it was so work-based, it was just like you have to have faith and work, and you have to do the works. You have to get baptized however many times. I mean, it
was just a lot of anxiety and a lot of constant pressure of am I good enough? Am I doing it? Yeah. And now there's none of that. Yeah. It's not, I mean, if you can bless someone, bless them, but it's not, there's also so much more self-love, I feel like, which is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And all Christ says is believe in me.
Yeah.
And it's almost that simple. And
trust in him.
Yeah.
And those are these words: trust and believe, lean, rest. I mean, there's a lot of synonyms that really just talk about the same thing.
Yeah.
Those aren't works. Those are. It's almost hard to describe what they are. It's literally a dependence. It's just saying. I think one person put it this way: is like the greatest thing, or some people have said the only thing that you're to bring to Christ is your need. It's like you see it,
which which was just so not how we were programmed
Right.
and raised.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's great. Well, I know we're probably coming up to the end of this time of the episode. Is there anything else that, there's a question I need to ask. That's what Joel was talking about, because it's kind of the thing that we do. But before we do that, is there anything else that you guys felt like that you wanted to share regarding, how about if you were speaking, or it could even be something like you're trying to help us as a church, right? I mean, we're glad you guys are here, and one of the things that we want to do well is to reach out to really the majority of the people who we're trying to minister to. It's not all the people, but the majority of people are those that are coming from an FLDS or an LDS background, who maybe from an LDS background, I don't know. I think we've talked to people that are ex-LDS too, and they have a lot of the similar concerns and feel the same way. But what would you say to them or to us about how to help bring people through that spiritual trauma to a place where you kind of are today? Does that make sense?
Yeah, spiritual trauma is actually a really good way to explain it. I don't know. Do you have something?
I don't know if it'd work for everybody, but that one-on-one study with Bob, because I've come to your Wednesday group meetings whenever I can. I think I've only made it to one or two, but that group is a little bit hard at first because I don't.
You have so many.
You have so many
guards
questions
up too.
And guards. Yes, you're right.
So many guards up. And it's like, I don't want anyone to even try like talking to me or try bringing that into my space. Like, I don't know how I feel about it. I don't need someone to tell me how to feel about it. And I think just putting that guard down and just listening and asking, being able to like openly ask those questions without feeling like you're going to be judged or
that's where I was
made
going to
fun
go.
of.
Because I asked Bob probably hundreds of questions that I would have never asked in a group.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very, very, very helpful for me.
So it's someone you trust, but also an environment where you feel free.
Yeah.
Right. Where you feel like if you wanted to, you could say, I don't believe that. And I like you as a person, but we're done here, Yeah.
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 Well, that's awesome. I just want to let you know that I will keep that in mind, because I've thought through that much about how can we create that atmosphere here. I'm thankful for Bob and Kim. We need more of Bob and Kims who will be hospitable and invite people in and have that type of discussion. But I just want to say personally, if you guys ever felt like that was something you wanted to do and they weren't available, that's what we want to be too.
Right.
And I understand that. It is difficult to have those type of discussions with the many people, because then you start getting into a small group and people may not feel comfortable with
at
others.
this point,
I
feel like I could ask you those questions, but in the beginning,
sure,
I couldn't.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand.
That's
absolutely. That's great. And I just sit back in awe of, I think I told my wife this the other day. I said, I could see, because I went through, I would say, a transition. It was not even close to the depth of what you guys have gone through. But I did have to lose friends and family and stuff because of the denomination that I was part of. I just didn't agree with things anymore. And when I brought those things up, I basically got ousted. So in that sense, I did experience some of it, but not to your depth. And I told her that there were times I struggled, with like, is this even, what am I doing? Like, is this thing even real? So for you guys to still be on your journey and still wanting to know more about the Word and know more about God and about Christ I think it's a miracle of God that He's put inside of you guys. And I think the same for all of us. And so I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that we get to play a part in it, and has been awesome to get to know you guys. So thanks for coming on the podcast. I know it probably wasn't easy to tell your story. I think the first episode drops tonight. Okay. So FYI, and next week, and then this one.
And I and maybe you do too, but I in some of our storytelling in the last 2 episodes, some people get hung up on dates and names, and I apologize if I got some of those off a little bit.
Yeah.
It wasn't intentional. I just couldn't quite remember some of the things, and now I'm thinking back. It's like, I think that certain thing might have happened at a different time, but
Right. Yeah. Well, we might even can put something in the description or something, if that needs to be. And we're going to wrap this up. Before we do, the question I have to ask, and I'll be killed I won't be killed. I shouldn't be saying that. Is there a favorite Bible verse that you guys have? You don't have to have one, but it's the staple thing that we've asked all of our guests that come on, if there's one that you guys have.
No, like I don't know. I haven't been as, I don't know I don't think hung up is the right word, but like on actual, what's the way to say this? Like, I've been just doing a lot more feeling than, like, I need to get more into actual reading the scriptures and studying. So I don't really.
That's fine.
Because that is something that I've had to work through of wording and to like look at it and feel it and absorb it in a different view and feeling.
Right. Same with you?
I think so. I know there's a couple passages in Romans I really like, and I can't even quote them, but I could open up the Bible and take 5 minutes and show them to you. But I really, really liked, because they helped me. Literally, it was one simple passage, like with, again, I'm going to say context.
Sure.
With context that Bob showed me. And it was mind blowing. And so there's a few places in Romans that I just really, really, really like.
Yeah.
But
I was gonna say, I was gonna say you could say the book of Romans.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. We actually just started going through that as a family again, and just kind of reading through the first couple chapters. That's all we've gone through so far, But anyway, we'll wrap it up. I know this episode went a little long, but when you're the only person here, you can make those decisions and not feel criticized by it. But if there's anything we can do, and if you have any questions regarding this episode or any of the other episodes, you can always reach out to us at the contact information in the description, both in the YouTube page and Spotify. So until next time, we will be back, and we appreciate you listening, and we will see you next time on Faith and Fellowship.